On July 8th, during the brutal World War II Battle of Saipan, Corporal Guy Gabaldon of the 2nd Marine Regiment found himself alone on a high-stakes patrol. The jungle around him was dense and suffocating. Every step he took was calculated, his senses heightened. His eyes darted through the shadows, alert for any sign of movement. Suddenly, he spotted them. 2 Japanese guards standing sentinel just outside the mouth of a cave. The perfect hiding spot for more soldiers. How many, he couldn't tell. Gabaldon moved swiftly and quietly. In seconds, he closed the gap and neutralized both guards, taking them prisoner. The men were terrified, wide-eyed in disbelief at this lone Marine standing before them. But instead of striking further fear into them, Gabaldon stunned them by speaking fluent Japanese. In perfect, calm tones, he offered them a chance. Return to the cave unharmed, but only if they summoned their commanding officer. For a long moment, the air hung heavy, silence filling the space. Then, a Japanese officer appeared, stepping out from the cave's shadows. Gabaldon squared up to face the enemy officer, the weight of the confrontation pressing down on him. With tense eyes, the officer took in the sight of the lone Marine, and then Gabaldon spoke again. Knowing the Japanese and their strict code of honor, the American was about to make a most unexpected and risky proposal. An education in empathy. Guy Gabaldon was born in California to a Mexican family and grew up in East Los Angeles, one of 7 children. At the age of 12, he moved in with the Nakano family, who were of Japanese heritage. They became his adopted family, and he immersed himself in their way of life. He attended language school every day with the Nakano's children, quickly becoming fluent in Japanese. Gabaldon was not merely an observer of Japanese culture, he became part of it. This profound understanding of the Japanese way of life, from their deeply rooted concepts of giri, duty, and on, obligation, to their unwavering devotion to family honor, would become Gabaldon's secret weapon in the Pacific theater. At the outbreak of World War II, his adopted family, the Nakanos, were sent to the Hard Mountain Relocation Center in Wyoming, along with thousands of other Japanese Americans. Gabaldon watched helplessly as the family who had opened their home for him was forced to abandon their business and their community. The forced internment of the Nakanos stirred something deep within Gabaldon. Determined to make a difference, Gabaldon journeyed to Alaska, where he worked in a cannery. However, his heart yearned for a more profound purpose, and his thoughts always turned toward the battlefield, where he could fight for something greater. On his 17th birthday, March 22, 1943, Gabaldon enlisted in the United States Marine Corps. His young age belied his fierce determination and unique cultural perspective. Fueled by the injustices he'd witnessed and his deep sense of duty, he threw himself into basic training at Camp Pendleton, outperforming many older recruits in both physical and tactical exercises. Gabaldon's aptitude for languages was quickly noticed. He was sent to the enlisted Marine Japanese language school at Camp Elliott in San Diego, where he refined his conversational skills into military intelligence expertise. He mastered the intricacies of the language, from military terminology to regional dialects, knowing this skill would be a powerful asset in the Pacific theater. The Marine Corps assigned Gabaldon to Headquarters and Service Company, 2nd Marine Regiment, 2nd Marine Division, placing him at the center of the Pacific Campaign's fierce fighting. As a scout and observer, his mission was clear but perilous: infiltrate enemy territory, gather vital intelligence, and identify weaknesses in the Japanese defenses. Operating behind enemy lines, he faced constant threats, from enemy patrols to the ever-present danger of ambush. One day, while on patrol through dense jungle terrain, Gabaldon encountered something unexpected. Japanese soldiers emerging with their hands raised in surrender. Instead of calling for backup or training his weapon, he saw an opportunity. Fluent in their language, he approached them with calm authority, using his understanding of their culture to earn their trust. His voice, speaking their native tongue in the midst of war, created an instant connection. He sensed their fear, their pride, and their need for honor. So, in a hushed exchange beneath the jungle canopy, he skillfully talked them into divulging vital intelligence regarding enemy territory and positions. The lone wolf prowls. The capture of Saipan was a critical objective for the U.S. military, essential for securing airfields to accommodate the B-29 Superfortress bombers, the backbone of the planned invasion of the Japanese mainland. From these airfields, the massive bombers could strike directly at Japan's industrial centers. On June 15, 1944, 535 ships carrying over 127,000 soldiers, including Marines from the 2nd and 4th Marine Divisions, stormed the island. Knowing the stakes, the Japanese forces had transformed Saipan into a fortress. 30,000 defenders had dug intricate networks of bunkers and tunnels throughout the volcanic terrain. Their commander, Lieutenant General Yoshitsugu Saito, had made it clear: surrender was unthinkable. They were under orders to take out 7 American soldiers for every Japanese soldier lost, or take their own lives. They waited in the dense jungle interior, ready to make the Americans pay dearly for every inch of ground. As darkness fell over Saipan that first evening, the distant crack of rifles and thunder of artillery echoed across the island. While other Marines dug in for the night, Gabaldon had different plans. He recounted, quote, "The first night I was on Saipan, I went out on my own. I always worked on my own, and brought back 2 prisoners using my backstreet Japanese." Gabaldon's reconnaissance mission was as reckless as it was dangerous. He slipped behind enemy lines, moving through the jungle with only his instincts to guide him. On a different night, Gabaldon moved through the dense jungle of northern Saipan. In the gloom, he spotted 2 enemy soldiers crouched near a small clearing. The rifles were across their laps as they studied a map, speaking in hushed tones about supply routes. He crept closer, keeping his rifle ready. 20 feet became 10, then 5. The soldiers remained focused on their map, unaware of the Marine closing in on their position. In one fluid motion, he sprang from the shadows, knocking one soldier off balance and silencing him with a quick strike. The second soldier froze, and Gabaldon swiftly subdued him, tying their hands before leading his prisoners away. He spoke to them quietly in Japanese, assuring them of fair treatment in exchange for cooperation. After the action, Gabaldon returned to base, the captured soldiers in tow. But when his superior officers saw him, fury erupted. They had no tolerance for disobedience, and with cold, hard eyes, they threatened a court-martial for abandoning his post. The Pied Piper of Saipan. Ignoring the reprimand, the next night he ventured out again into the Saipan darkness. Through intelligence gathered from his previous captures, Gabaldon knew of a cave system where Japanese forces had established a command post. He approached a cave nestled in the darkened hillside, moving from shadow to shadow. 2 sentries stood guard at the entrance, their silhouettes visible against the limestone face. Gabaldon eliminated the sentries with 2 precise shots, the sound barely carrying through the thick jungle canopy. He advanced to a position beside the cave entrance, using the natural cover of the rock face. In clear, commanding Japanese, he called out, quote, "You're surrounded and have no choice but to surrender. Come out. I assure you will be well treated." The silence that followed was broken only by whispered conversations from within the cave. Then, one by one, soldiers emerged from the darkness. By morning, Gabaldon returned, leading 50 prisoners back to base, the largest single capture by any Marine on Saipan to that point. His commanding officer, faced with these extraordinary results, reversed his earlier position. Gabaldon received official permission to operate as a lone wolf scout, an operator with the freedom to work independently behind enemy lines. His unorthodox tactics had proven more effective than anyone could have predicted. On July 8th, Gabaldon was back in action. Marine intelligence had reported increased activity around a network of caves in the island's mountainous interior. Following tracks and listening to local civilians, he located some Japanese guards posted at another narrow cave entrance carved into the mountainside. From his concealed position, Gabaldon studied their patrol pattern. When the moment was right, he stepped into the clearing and addressed them in measured Japanese. The guards froze and slowly lowered their rifles. Gabaldon secured them quickly, binding their hands while questioning them about the cave's occupants. A Japanese officer emerged from the darkness. His weathered face showed the strain of weeks of combat. Gabaldon, maintaining his composure, laid out the situation clearly. The Americans had taken the coastal areas, supplies were dwindling, and surrender meant survival. After several tense minutes of negotiation, the officer nodded, signaling his acceptance. What followed was unprecedented. Within hours, over 800 soldiers and civilians streamed out of the cave system. The line of surrendering Japanese stretched far into the afternoon as Gabaldon coordinated with U.S. authorities to process the massive group. This extraordinary achievement solidified his growing reputation. Among both his enemies and his fellow Marines, he became known as the Pied Piper of Saipan, the lone Marine who could make entire Japanese units surrender through words alone. Gabaldon continued his mission across Saipan and nearby Tinian, moving from cave to cave, combining his language skills and cultural understanding to save both American and Japanese lives. His unconventional approach had turned the brutal cave-by-cave fighting into a mission of preservation rather than destruction. Then, one day, as Gabaldon moved through the jungle, tracking Japanese holdouts, his luck finally ran out. The sudden rattle of a machine gun cut through the dense vegetation. Japanese gunners had spotted him from a concealed position. Bullets tore through the air, striking Gabaldon multiple times. He fell hard onto the jungle floor. Despite severe wounds, Gabaldon remained conscious long enough for fellow Marines to reach his position and evacuate him to safety. His injuries would end his remarkable solo missions on Saipan, but they couldn't diminish what he had accomplished. The stuff of Hollywood legend. Gabaldon's extraordinary achievements on both Saipan and Tinian did not go unnoticed. He was credited with capturing approximately 1,500 Japanese soldiers and civilians, a staggering feat. His commanding officer, Captain John Schwab, was so impressed with Gabaldon's bravery and success that he recommended him for the Medal of Honor. Yet, despite this glowing recommendation, Gabaldon was awarded the Silver Star Medal, a commendation that fell short of the recognition his actions truly deserved. Even without the highest honors, Gabaldon's legacy as one of the most daring and effective Marines of the war remains undeniable. His contributions in the Pacific, where others might have faltered, cemented his place in history as a hero who did the impossible, time and time again. In 1960, Hollywood immortalized Guy Gabaldon's heroism on Saipan with Hell to Eternity, a film in which he served as an advisor. In 1970, Gabaldon made a remarkable return to Saipan, the very island where he had once fought in brutal combat. This time, with his wife by his side, he built a thriving seafood business and established a youth camp, forging a new legacy on the island. For 2 decades, he called Saipan home. A passionate pilot, Gabaldon soared above the northern Mariana Islands, flying small planes and embracing the freedom of the skies that had once symbolized his fight for survival.